at this point, after doing this for so many years, I can understand what the no's mean. So, like, when it's a no, and like I said, if I understand why, like, I'll let it go. At this point, because I've actually backed out of a lot of this stuff, I'm not doing it as much as I used to. I have a particular magazine publishing group that I mentioned to you up in Canada that I work with a bit. I do some contract work for Boeing, but I'm not actively going out and trying to do this anymore. There's a few projects that I'll get involved with, and I mean, again, I'm like, I'm 52 years old, and I'm not trying to create any sort of like aura of myself, but I'm like, I don't want to fight this battle anymore.
Right.
When people ask me when my book came out, like, what's your next book? I'm like, I have no desire, no matter I had some high level support from the naval aviation community. And that is a huge reason, probably the only reason my book ever got done. But the other side, the more bureaucratic side of things, was painful, and
Mhm.
and was painful for a long, like, a year. And then even after my book was done, it was painful again. So, like, I tell people flat out, here's where I'm at. I love the Navy and I love naval aviation, and I've been asked by 3 or 4 people to do this, this, and this. And I'll say, "You know what? I would be willing to, if all of the approvals, you guys do all that. You do all the legwork. I don't, I will step in. I will have every meeting you want me to be at, every email, but I do not want to ask for permission. I worked my ass off to do what I did, and there should be some level of like, okay, we know he's a known commodity. Let's do this. So, like, occasionally I get asked, "Do you want to go work with this Air Force unit?" I'm like, because I know, especially now with social media, and especially with some of the changes of like influencers and stuff, like, it's changed dramatically. So,
Right.
it's not that I'm just kind of, just don't want to fight the battle as much as I used to.
Fair
And
enough.
that's one of the questions you asked in the email you had sent about, is about changes. That is one of the biggest changes I've seen, is just, it's different but the same. They still say no a lot, but it's for different reasons. Now they're
Right.
chasing likes and views
Mm.
as opposed to substance, and I don't understand that. I think there's a
Yeah.
time and place for both, and there's some great people doing, like, aviation centric YouTube or podcasts. There are. I mean, I'm not, I get messages all the time like, "How is that person getting access?" I'm like, "They're doing good work, and they're telling the story that needs to be told, whether you like it or not."
Yeah.
This isn't personal. It's like, what are they doing? What's the end goal? But there's a lot of, as I said earlier too, a lot of just, nothing wrong with this, but just people taking photos and nothing else.
Right.
And when I've discussed it with, like, say, military people, I'm like, what else? Like, you need your story told. A photo is great. Nobody hates a good photo. But that photo on Instagram lasts all of what, 10 seconds?
If
There
that.
has
Yeah.
to be, and you might think print magazines are dying or digital magazines, whatever. Whatever the medium that you're using, you guys still need your stories told. I don't care if it's, like I said, it's a law enforcement agency or military or whatever. They seem to kind of gravitate one way and think that's it. And that's where I've seen the change. It's like, everybody else doesn't matter. We're going this way now. And I'm like, in 2 years, you're going to be like, uh-oh, we need this now.
Right.
So, I've been working on this one project with the Air Force, and I won't name names, but if they're listening, they're going to know what it is. Um, this is a unit I worked with early in my career when nobody else would work with them. And I, as sort of like, because I'm slowing down with this stuff, they're the guy that was running the unit called me, and he's like, "It would be kind of cool. Like, you should work with us again." And I said, "Yeah, what would be neat about it is it'd be like sort of a circular, like, you were one of the first military units that I flew with. And as I'm winding this career down, I'm not done. I'm just saying this, like, not pursuing it as actively. Like, it'd be cool to be like, circle back and talk about that." 2 years, 2 years to fly in an aircraft that I've flown in dozens and dozens of times in my career. It's not about that. I don't care whether I fly in the aircraft or not, but it is a more effective way to tell the story. It's more,
Right.
because of my background, I could go stand on a runway and take photos of these airplanes, and that's great. But because of my background, and I'm like, because of what I can do, you need the air to air photos. You need that to elevate the narrative. And it's been 2 years of people sitting behind desks somewhere just kind of saying no. And we don't know why. Even the people out at the unit are like, we don't know why. And I'm like, whatever, then don't do it.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
if you want me to sign something, I'll sign it. If you need me to send an email explaining myself again, I'll send it. But like, if they just keep saying no because we don't do this or well, blah blah blah, I'm like, don't, like I keep telling them, like, don't fight City Hall. I don't want
Yeah.
your superiors getting mad at you because you keep pushing something that really, at the end of the day, isn't that important. I'm also like, really, like, it's important to tell your story, but it's not your mission, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, it's definitely changed a lot in the last,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know, whenever Instagram and everything blew up. I think, again, and I will, even though, there's no, you didn't say, I will say, like, one of the pieces of treating it like a business that I felt was helpful was the software that you guys have. And I,
Thank
again,
you.
I'm going to say that because while at first you didn't have my categories necessarily in there, right? I was like, God, how do I figure out? I was able, through project to project to project, piece together through the various industries that you had in there, the various categories, the various price ranges. And then that, coupled with calling some trusted colleagues in the aviation side of things, saying what, and again, not very few would share with me, like, hey, what would you charge for this contract job? Or they want me to do a 1 day photo shoot for them. Ultimately, what I'm doing, and the people like listening that use your software, even, it is commercial photography, right? The
Mhm.
photojournalism side is one thing. They pay me to go do a story. But the contract work I do, the flight test stuff I do, or if a company hires me to go shoot, it's shooting a product. So
Yeah.
I did realize after, it took a while, but I'm like, well, this is just commercial photography. And that's where the two things, like your software, asking trusted colleagues, what would you charge? It clicked as to how to effectively use the software to be like, this is this. You could say automotive and it'd be the same, right? So
Right.
you have categories where it's not exact, but it's like a cross. But that was, again, what I've said this whole time: business. It's
Hmm.
business. My big takeaway from all this is you have to know that, again, if you're a hobbyist and you enjoy aviation and you want to do that and not make money, or, great. That's a whole different thing, and that's fine. But if you're like, how do I go and get published? How do I make extra money or a full-time job out of it? If you're just like, oh my God, I love airplanes, I want to be around airplanes all day, that should be the second part. The
Right.
first part is, how do I talk to people professionally? How do I ask the question in such a way that can drive the answer to where I need it to be without being an idiot? you know, like, how do I get there? And then it's like, all right, and this is the final point I always make to the people that reach out to me. I'm like, then is when you go out there, and if you suck, that's your one chance. After that,
Right.
like, right, if your pictures suck after that, you're probably not going to get the next opportunity. So you still need to know what you're doing around airplanes. You don't want to go out there either and get run over or sucked into an airplane propeller either. So that's the other part, which is a whole separate part of, not in your business, but the other podcasts I've done, the interviews I've done, is like, safety is a huge thing for me and the colleagues that work in flight test with us. The one thing that's been drilled into me is like, I don't care how much I want to take a photo of an airplane doing whatever it's doing, I need to come home. And
Yeah,
nothing is that
exactly. Your
important,
wife
right?
would appreciate that.
Right. And there are people that I have seen now in this business that are like doing things that some of us sit there and we look at the Instagram, whatever they post, the video, and we're like, oh, we know what's happening there. And we're like, how the hell did that happen? Like, that seems sketchy. If I get a call from my colleague in Kansas that like has been doing this 30 years and he's like, did you see this post? This is sketchy as heck. And I'm like, yep, I saw it too. And then I'll get a call from a Navy photographer, like, did you see it? It goes around real quick. So
Hmm.
like, you have to know how to do your job. It's just like anything else in sales or anything. You get one chance to help that customer, and if you're not able to, they're going to move on to someone else. I get that. But if you map it out that way to like I'm confident in my skill set. I know when I get out there I can do the job, but I need to know how to get to that point. I think that is, and that I will give credit to my dad in that respect, me being in business with him, or things he's taught me about sales and how to deal with people. The big thing he's always told me, and he does it to this day, is like nobody is ever going to be pissed off if they ask you a question and you say I don't know, but I'll get back to you by the end of the day with an answer. Nobody is going to get pissed off. There might be one, but I apply that to everything,
Nice.
and so even with the other, being told no or getting through those gatekeepers, it's like, hey, how do I have this conversation so that I'm not a threat, that you want to put the effort into helping me. You might have to do a little bit more work, but as long as you're not saying no for the basic reason that I know is garbage, we can have that
Yeah.
conversation, right?
Yep.
So, that's it's business first. I mean, it really
Business.
is. Yeah.